Hi guys. Whew. Hey, welcome back to Sunday Sermon with Ola. I think this is episode 4, and yeah, I've picked a better time to do it this week. I didn't wait till the last minute. I'm almost about to die of exhaustion, but thank you to everybody that responded to last week's episode. I got a lot of really positive feedback. People really rallied round. Sometimes when you talk about something that might be, like a something close to your heart, or it could be a weakness or whatever it is, there is always that fear that maybe someone's going to use it against you, or like you're going to come across looking stupid or whatever it is, and that might still happen. But I'm grateful for the people who responded really positively to that discussion about porn, and to everybody who tuned in for the live discussion on Instagram. It's a tough subject to talk about, and people really came with their honest opinions as well, even when we disagree. It's still valuable to hear your opinion. Um, and yeah, I'm really starting to actually quite enjoy this podcast, which is, I hope that's fun for you to hear as well. I think it's always best I always enjoy watching people do something that they enjoy. So I hope that you are enjoying it as I am enjoying doing this podcast. Um, I have tried to keep it a bit more free form, so that I don't get into this habit of like talking myself out of something, or trying to get too complex with an idea or whatever it is. But just like kind of organically going with the flow, but at the same time, obviously being a bit intentional about how I light things, or how I put this whole thing together. So for those of you that are enjoying it, I really appreciate you, man. As always, I have to shout out all the patrons, everybody on my Patreon right now who is uh, making sure that they contribute on a monthly basis to continue the work. I appreciate you, man. I really do. It's very easy to say, but like you guys have said, I want to put money where my mouth is, and I respect that. And I want to continue to do you proud. So keep going with me, keep rocking with me. I'm still on the journey. Okay, now we done got all the intros and niceties and so on out the way. I feel like this might be the episode that I play a bit of the douchebag, as it were, or maybe devil's advocate, or I don't know, maybe because I know that at the deep down, part of why I enjoy this topic is because there's some wahala around it, a little bit of drama. And if you follow me on Instagram, make sure, if you don't, make sure you do. Um, you might have seen in my stories, we got into a whole discussion this week about someone's post. Now, in this post, let me pull up the post as I'm talking to you, so that I don't actually disrupt the king's words here, and misquote him for what he really said. But the general gist of it was that, like, you always see it through the topics. I don't even know why I do this big reveal as if like you don't know what we're about to talk about. But it's about marital names, right? It's about taking on your husband's surname when you marry him, and so on. Okay, so this is from Cash Money Madu. That's his Twitter handle. Um, it says, "You either take my last name, or there ain't nothing to talk about. No hyphens either." And I reposted it on the Instagram story, saying the king said what he said. He set his standard, and I love it. I love everything about the statement. One, because I agree with him, I share the sentiment. But two, I love the energy with which he said it. Now, this statement is clearly very close to the hearts of a lot of my sisters. And so, I got an unprecedented number of messages from people who had opinions, really long discussions with women about how they feel. Um, Now, I want to take it bit by bit, because the first thing that kept coming up was he seems controlling. He can't be making demands like that. And so I want to read it to you again. I want you to hear exactly what he said. Don't color it with your own impressions of men or whatever. Just listen to what he said. "You either take my last name, or there ain't nothing to talk about. No hyphens either." So the question I posed to the sisters was, how is that a demand? He's kind of giving you an option. What it actually is a non-negotiable standard. For him, that's one of his deal breakers. It's either you do it or we haven't got anything to talk about. You, for you to call that a demand would mean that like somehow you are either forced to be with him or you believe that you're entitled to be with him. But if you know you guys you like each other and then this is a non-negotiable for you, it's like we ain't got nothing to talk about. As far as I'm concerned, we don't really need to be getting married. That's his standard. So we got into a whole long discussion. I got into so many different discussions with women. And you know, part of it is very tongue in cheek for me. I want to say that from the beginning because at the end of the day, I have no skin in this game. I'm married and my wife carries my name. So really and truly, I it's more for the sport than it is for any real stakes. So I got into it like I don't think it's possible for men to be firm in today's day and age without being heard through the lens of all the negative stereotypes about men. Because the reason why I say that is because the I said when all the women were complaining in the comments about how this guy sounds controlling and so on, I said, you know what? This guy's setting a standard about marriage. He sounds like a woman. He sounds like what I hear a lot of my sisters say. You know how many times I've heard one of the sisters say, "Oh, there's no way I'm proposing to a man. And my man's got to propose to me." Or they hear about somebody who's been engaged for long or dating for long and hasn't been proposed to yet. There's no way I'm dating a man for 5 years. Nah, you have to propose, or else you're wasting my time. That's their non-negotiable standard. But these women are not jumping out saying, "Oh, you sound controlling, sis." No, they're like, "Yes, that's right. Set your standards, sis." And if they don't like it, they can go elsewhere. So what's the problem? How is it that when a man says it, it sounds controlling? I personally think that in the course of trying to correct a lot of the wrong ways in which women have been treated, I think we've lost some of the essence of nuance, and I think it's very easy to, if you already have it in your head that men can be disrespectful or controlling or aggressive, then you start to hear things that aren't aggressive as aggressive, even if they're not intended to be. A man setting a non-negotiable standard is just wisdom. Why would you want to marry someone if you fundamentally disagree on something that's going to be very important to you? And the funny thing is, a lot of the women that were upset about it, I was like, yo, why are you even policing the desires of somebody that you don't desire? Right? Like, a lot of women were like very emotionally invested in this topic and specifically aimed at him. In that post of that tweet, like, there were comments underneath, like, oh, making fun of his name, making fun of his face, making fun of who he is. Oh, he'd probably do a lot better if he wasn't so controlling, blah, blah, blah. It was very, very personal. I was like, but none of you want to marry him, so why does it even matter? If anything, the controlling and narcissistic thing is to try and control the desires of somebody who doesn't desire you, and you don't desire either. You literally have no skin in the game, but you want to say how he should behave. I think that's controlling. If you're watching this on YouTube and you see the smile on my face, this isn't just me enjoying causing trouble. But it's like I genuinely believe this. I genuinely believe that like a lot of the times you do have to take things with a pinch of salt. And even if you see somebody doing something in a relationship that's not that it's harmful or anything like that, you know, like you're watching someone getting beaten up. But I mean, if you just see somebody doing relationship in a different way, there's a certain amount to which you kind of have to just kind of go, well, that's theirs. You know, even if you disagree, you can say, not for my house. You know, and I don't know why this. I don't know. This is like the second one where we end up talking about marriage and stuff like that. Second pod, but I guess it's just close to the heart. But I guess it's just for me. I look at it like I comment on marriage in general, you know, and I comment in terms of the principles that I've learned and the principles that I believe are scriptural and so on. But I still do know at the end of the day, not everyone agrees with me. I know some of you are still gonna insist that you're not taking your man's name when you get married. Fine, you're not married to me, so that's okay. In fact, I told my brothers on the same Instagram story, look, some of you are out here beating your chest over you have to take my name, but your name don't mean anything. In fact, if you know you're not really a big boy, don't be making noise. You better just quietly take your wife's name. Look, what we're talking here is big boy talk. We're talking about providing something that your woman is proud to take. I'm not saying you just enforce it upon her, but ideally a woman should be marrying somebody that she trusts and wants to follow his vision. But I'm saying that like it's more to it. It's a whole lifestyle. It's not just a matter of just being about names. It's about a lifestyle of saying, look, I believe that when we get married, we put aside everything else so that we can truly cleave to one another. Leave and cleave is the phrase from the scripture. So it's a biblical principle. And I also believe that when you start to tally up tit for tat in marriage, I really believe that it's a losing battle. Here's why. You cannot ever understand the sacrifice someone else gives if you've never been in their situation, right? So for you, giving up something might be a big deal, and for them it might be minuscule. For them it might be a big deal, and for you it might be minuscule. So all you can really ask for is that when you go into a marriage with somebody, that you both give your all. That's it, right? So I can't say I understand what it is for a woman to give up her name, but I do believe a woman doesn't understand what it is for a man to go out of his way and propose to her. And that's where it starts to get sticky now. Because a lot of women like to change traditions that don't suit them. I don't blame you. I don't blame you. You're renegotiating the contract. You definitely want some favorable terms. But if the brothers start saying, okay, cool, we're doing away with these traditions, let's also do away with that whole diamond nonsense. Then some of you want to start backing up. Whoa, 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 brother. Whoa, 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 whoa. Yo, that's how it works. That's how it goes. Right? Right? There's no guarantee, there's no obligation on him to buy you a diamond. There's no obligation on him to even get down on one knee, provide or propose to you in a specific way. If he just asks you while you're both on the sofa watching TV, literally it's a proposal. You want the effort, you want the blah blah blah, and so on and so forth. So in the same way, like no one can ever force you to take his name, but at the same time, all I'm saying is apply the same energy. Apply the same energy. If it's very easy to go into a marriage thinking about how much everyone should be aligning themselves to please you, but sometimes you're gonna have to address the fact that you might need to please them. And if your man wants you to take his name, you have to ask yourself why you wouldn't, and what's so important to you that you would take the person you're taking to be the most important person in your life, that you're saying, I'm going to tie myself to you, I'm going to bond with you, I'm going to spend the rest of my life with you, but I don't want to do this one thing for you. Then you have to start really asking yourself, why? You know, I know that a lot of the discussion around this is to do with a woman's identity, and one discussion in particular I had was a lot to do with the fact that like women grow up with their father's name and then they trade that in for their husband's name. To be honest, all children grow up with their father's name. It's not like sons get a chance to pick their own surname. So it's kind of a moot point about the father's name thing. That's just kind of a continuation of the same point, which is that the father's name becomes the family name. But yeah, so the point is to do with a woman's identity. Now, like I said before, I can't say I know what it is for a woman to give up her name or blah blah blah. But one thing I can say is that marriage is a place of sacrifice. That's the reason why marriage takes place at the altar. It's because, like in Christian tradition anyway, is that because you come to a place in which you both sacrifice to be reborn into new life. And this new life is as one. So that's why you forsake all others. That's why you give up whatever it is you had before so that you can now enter into this union. Now, I know for a lot of people, and this is the thing, it's going to be very tough to explain to a woman, or a woman's going to find it very tough to explain to me. But looking from the other side, you can always feel like the other person has it so easy. Everybody's against you, right? I know. Do you know how many times I speak to sisters and they're like, "Oh man, husbands just have it the best. Oh, everybody loves a husband. Oh, husbands have such low standards. Oh, nobody puts any pressure on a husband." Now, I can understand and empathize as to why they might say that, but I also really, really disagree on many occasions. There are many occasions where I would think that, the husband actually has it worse. But when we actually start to investigate that, I'm like, yo, you guys have no idea what it is to be a man. You have no idea what it is to be a man in this situation. You haven't ever done it before, so all you can really go on is theory. And you believe it's like this, you believe it's easier based on where you're looking from your vantage point. But being a husband has its challenges. So even though on many occasions we just kind of give in and just go, okay, yeah, women have to give birth and so on and so forth. Like knowing that someone else has to give birth doesn't make your life easier necessarily. It might be that moment that you now start to really respect what your wife is going through. But that doesn't mean that your life is an absolute, walk in the park. It might not come in that obvious, recognizable way, but there are pressures and pains that come with being a husband as well. And so that's why I believe that when we come into these conversations about like whether women should give up her name or blah blah blah, and women just go through so much suffering and pain, why would they ever do this, blah blah blah. I'm like, yo, every day women are trying to get married. Women who've been married are trying to get married again. People who've had one child are trying to have children again. Clearly, there's some kind of reward in this. Clearly, there's some kind of desire and joy in this. There are some women who can't wait to take a husband's name. So we have to be careful about spreading these narratives about like this whole thing being a source of oppression, because what you're essentially saying is that these women are so dumb and stupid, the ones that want to get married, take a husband's name, submit, have kids, blah blah blah. They're so dumb and they're not so unenlightened like you, who's figured it all out. Like I said, to a certain extent, everyone's gonna do how they want to do in their house. But really, when it comes to this idea of like taking your husband's name, I think first of all, that man having his standard, setting it as a standard, I think it just gets colored with all the other misgivings and crimes and issues with men who are not him, but just other men who have filled our consciousness with all their terrible behaviors. Um, and as a man, you kind of just have to live with the fact that you have to continuously contend with what some other guy has done. That's just how women approach you, or approach the things that you say. Um, but then I also think when it comes to taking your name, I just know that as for me and my house, that's how we do us. If I'm gonna be the head of a house, right, and like you have to understand, at least biblically, the minimum you can give your wife is everything. As a husband, the Bible says you have to love her like Christ loved the church, laying down his life for her. That means in a situation where one of you must die, you have taken on the responsibility as a husband to be that person. It's not one of those situations in which the sisters are talking about 50-50. They're not talking about, oh, you know what, just stab us both like half as much as you would have stabbed one of us. No. As the husband, you have to go. You telling me I'm going to lay down my life for somebody who doesn't want to take my name? God forbid. God forbid. What? Somebody will be telling me I have my own identity, and then me, I'm going to go and lay down my life for that person? You got to be kidding me. there's clearly a lot of pride and ego involved. I can't lie. There's a joy in it. There's a joy in it. Do you know what it is? If I think for men, it's like, imagine you manage a football team and one of the best players in the world says, "I want to come to your club." That's fantastic. And then they get to your club, they're like, "But I want to wear my own clothes. I don't want to wear your jersey." You're like, "What?" Everyone on the team around here wears the club jersey. You don't get to come in your own clothes. And that person's like, "Well, I'm my own person." Automatically from that moment, that person has demarcated themselves as not really being on the team. They're being more self-interested. And so even if that might not be the case, you will start to interpret everything else they do through the lens of somebody who wants to essentially do for themselves. Somebody who's not really about the partnership or the team, about, submitting or listening or working with you or whatever it is. This is somebody who is in it for themselves, and so long as it suits them, they're there, and the moment it no longer suits them, they'll be off. I think that's what it feels like when a woman says she wants to marry you, but she wants to keep her own name. I think so. But then there's a lot of guys who really don't care. There's a lot of guys who are happy to create a new name by, going half and half, double barreling it. And there's some guys who are happy to take their wife's name. But for me, I'm a Yoruba man. I'm a Christian, and I'm just me as well. And that whole combination has brought me to a point where I just said, nah, man, if we get married, you're becoming Baja Biamila. And specifically because it's complicated, long, and hard to spell, that's more the reason you have to come and collect that name. You can't like stumble into Baja Biamila. That's a choice. That's a choice. Baja Biamila. You must feel every syllable. Feel every syllable of that Baja Biamila. And someone tried to think they're slick and clever, be like, well, why does your name have a hyphen, huh? Because they wanted to see if maybe earlier on down the line someone else had done it in my family and double barreled their name. But the hyphen doesn't need to be there. It's just by spelling convention. Because many people spell Gbajabiamila as one word, and some people spell it with the hyphen. If you search up Femi Gbajabiamila, who is the Speaker of the House in Nigeria, Speaker of the House of Representatives, he on Wikipedia has his entire name all in one go. If you search up Akbar Gbajabiamila, who I posted a video with not too long ago, you see that he's got the hyphen in it. It's literally just convention. So there's already a hyphen in my name. I spell it with the hyphen. So you got your hyphen if you need it. You don't need to double barrel any other names into it. But Jabia Mela is already a mouthful. That's it. For me, anyway. For me. And yeah, I might laugh and snigger or maybe like run a couple jokes about guys whose wives don't take their names. But at the end of the day, it's all love and respect, man. As long as you guys really got a function in marriage, that's actually what matters. That's really what matters. So in finality, I just want to make sure it's all in context. That this is more of a tongue-in-cheek discussion, even though there's some serious elements to it. At the end of the day, like in the grand scheme of things, I'm not saying that if you don't take your husband's name, you won't make heaven. That's not the point, right? So let's keep it all within perspective. But as always, I hope you're listening to this on the Sunday it comes out, because 8 p.m. is when we jump on Instagram Live to discuss the topic. After you've heard me speak about it for over 20 minutes, I want to hear you speak on it. So I know a lot of people are looking forward to this discussion. Jump on Instagram Live 8 p.m. this Sunday and let's talk about this. I want to hear other people's opinions, especially women's opinions, because it is women that we're talking about in terms of changing their names. So it's very important to hear your voices. Um, yeah, guys, please keep supporting the pod. Please keep giving me the feedback. DM me on Instagram. Let me know what you thought. Let me know. Some people even give me small tips here and there to how to grow the pod. I really appreciate that. And for those of you who really believe financially that, like, look, I want to support this thing, Yeah, patreon.com/ olathecomedian. That's where you can sign up, and from as little as £3 a month, you can support the pod. Um, you're much appreciated, every single one of you, man. God bless you all, and and yeah, stay blessed.